mission of the African American Museum Library in Oakland is preserving your life story for history. Why don't we start by having you introduce yourself? What is your name and your age, and where were you born?
My name is Dorothy Marion Pete. I am 90 years old. I was born in Berkeley, California.
Could you tell us something about your birthplace and your sisters and brothers?
Yes. My birthplace was in Berkeley, California. It's at 1632 Oregon Street. My brothers, I had 6 brothers and I had 6 sisters.
And where did your parents come from?
My mother came from San Francisco. My father came from Griffin, Georgia.
And what was your mother's name?
Her name was Virginia Jenny Reid
And
Parker.
Parker.
Mm-hmm.
And then your father?
Thomas Henry Sr., Reid Sr.
Reid Sr., yes. And then you had relatives that were very active after they came to California. Mm-hmm. There was something, a cousin that you had, very famous, Mr. William Patterson.
William Patterson, yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about him?
Well, he was a lawyer. He went to law school, but he wasn't able to work with a white lawyer later on. And he ran out of money, but his mother got money from the Galts, who were the ones who handled the slaves.
And he was very famous. I remember hearing about him. He worked with the Communist Party.
That's right.
And in the 30s and the 40s.
That's right, yes.
And what was his connection with Paul Robeson?
Well, they got together and they wrote something that they presented to Congress.
Yes, to the United States
right.
Against about genocide.
Genocide, that's right.
About the African American people.
That's right.
I see. And then, where did you attend school?
I attended school in Longfellow Grammar School and Edison Junior High and Berkeley High School.
And as a child, where did you spend most of your time? At home, at school, church, playground?
Well, partly at church. Vacation Bible School I loved. I played at the San Pablo Park. That's where all the young people went to play, and football, tennis, whatever.
Yes. And some of your early memories of childhood, do you have some memories?
Well, I followed my mother around and I learned how to cook, and I also learned how to sew on the old treadle machine.
Do you recall something exciting happening in your childhood? Or do you remember things that people that influenced you at that time when you were little?
Well, my Uncle Theodore, he was my mother's brother, and he worked over the pier in San Francisco, and he hired the young boys during the summertime who were served as they would wash the dishes and serve the food. And I worked for him when I was 16. He used to have me come over to San Francisco, and I would type all of his letters and whatever he had to do.
And tell us about your marital status. You were married to Mr. Reid and your children.
I was married to Herman Pete, and my children were Gregory Paul Pete, Dennis Evan Pete, and Dorothy Reid Pete.
I see. So, some of your fun memories as a young adult, what were some of the things that you remember as a young adult?
Playing tennis at Sandpepper Park. That was one of the things I loved to do. We loved to go on picnics. Our church always had a picnic in the summertime, and I would attend that on a train, and that was real exciting because we didn't have very much money, but we could enjoy those kind of activities.
And tell me something about your brothers. You had some very famous brothers.
Yes, I did. My brother Paul Reid, he was on KDIA on Sunday. He broadcast at 5 in the morning. I never heard him much because 5 in the morning was awfully early for me to be up and listening to him. But he was, and he had concerts at the auditorium.
And he was a DJ as
He
well?
was, yes, he was, yes.
Yes. And then what about his cousin, Mel Reid, was that?
Mel he had a record shop, and Paul went in with him because he just didn't attract the people like he should have. But Paul was a good speaker, and he kind of took over so that Reed could make money.
It was the famous the Reid's record business?
That's right, yes.
And it's still there today?
It's still there. His son has it.
Where is it located?
It's on Sacramento Street.
The oldest existing black business in Berkeley?
Well, I think he was one of the first black businesses in Berkeley.
Is that right? Yes. And then the Reid family grew up in South Berkeley.
That's right, yes.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that experience growing up?
Well, my grandmother lived on 57th Street in Oakland, and we liked to go there. She had a windmill in the backyard, and that was real fascinating. And we used to play games in her backyard.
Okay. And then I understand that you studied typing. Where did you study that, and where did you go to school?
Well, that was when I first studied typing was at Edison Junior High School.
And then did you get employment in using your typing?
No, I didn't, because in those days there was a lot of pressure on people who had a darker skin. And we weren't hard. If you were white, you were hard, but you weren't hard if you were black.
So then, did you get employment?
Well, I was going to work for my uncle, and they were going to bring all the business from Seattle down to San Francisco, and he was going to be in charge of the office, and I was going to be his secretary. But he had a stroke, and he died at the time I graduated from high school.
And did you also work with the Linden branch of the library?
That's right. It was Linden Branch YWCA.
YWCA.
But it was a black one.
A black?
A black YWCA.
And so what did you do there?
Well, we had girl reserves. Camp. We had choirs. We had a little bit of everything, I think, there.
And then you worked in the downtown YWCA?
That's right.
In Berkeley?
No, in Oakland. I integrated it, whereas early on, we could go to the Y down in Oakland and play basketball, but we couldn't swim in the swimming pool, and we could not get a room at the YWCA.
Oh, what are the girls' reserves?
That was like the Girl Scouts. It was similar to that. And there were a lot of our young people who were Girl Reserves.
So the racial discrimination was pretty prevalent at that time?
It was, yes.
So what are some of the other social and civic activities that you participated?
Well, I was secretary at the Linden branch, Negro branch, YWCA, and we had picnics, we had the things, we went to the park, we played tennis. We had most of the activities that other people had, but they were black.
So what would you say of the person or persons who had the most influence on you?
Well, I thought Lulu Chapman had a lot of presence. Her presence as a secretary of the Linden branch, Negro branch YWCA.
Was she a supervisor?
She was, yeah.
Yes. So what was what was her influence? Was she?
Well, when they wanted me to integrate the YWCA in Oakland, the white YWCA, I wasn't interested, but she did talk me into it. And I think that she was responsible for me integrating the YWCA in Oakland.
And she was very good with the public?
Oh, yes, she was very, very good.
So tell us about your family, your children and your family.
Well, my oldest son, Gregory, he attended Cal, University of California, and he got his master's in journalism. And he used to write for Crisis magazine. That was one of his jobs. He also did a lot of tutoring with the young people. Dennis was my little wild boy, and he played football. And with his football playing, he would wait until the team he was playing was ready to win, and he'd grab the ball, steal the ball, and make a touchdown, and then his Oakland High would win. And that didn't go very well with the young people because they thought that he robbed them of their game. Jeffrey was my youngest boy, and he was always on me to make him something. And so I made him vests, reversible vests, or shirts, or anything, but he always wanted me to make them for them, which I did. At the present time, he is the director of the Inner Circle in Oakland on 14th and Broadway, and I'm sure all of you have been there one time or another.
Yes, it's very prominent. It's on 14th Street.
14th Street.
And it's called Jeffrey's
It's Inner Circle. Jeffrey's Inner Circle, yes.
Very popular. And I understand you celebrated your birthday party there.
I did. It was more or less his birthday party, but he gave it and he took care of all the details of it. He wouldn't let me in on them, but it was really packed. We had relatives from, Dennis came from Georgia, and my sister from Phoenix, and we had people from all over town.
And then tell us a little bit more about the birthday party. What happened?
Well, I was kind of late getting there, and the people were all there, but I have a daughter who's adopted me. I have a lot of daughters whose mothers have died, and they all adopted me, so I'm their mother. And this young one took me to get a dress because she didn't want me to wear a dress that I already had worn. And so we were gone an awful long time, longer than I should have been. And when I came home, she was going to take me there early, but my oldest brother said, take the phone off the hook and you take a nap because you're tired. So that's what I did. So I got there, and everybody was there, but that was fine. And
Yes.
they had good food, they had good fellowship, and there was everybody I ever knew were present there.
I saw a picture of you in the Berkeley Daily Planet, and I understand you sang a song?
Yes. It's somebody's birthday. I had heard that years and years and years ago, and I was singing it, and my sister, who's 6 years younger than me, joined me. She remembered it. So we sang that. It's somebody's birthday.
It's somebody's birthday. So, do you have a favorite hobby?
Well, I used to make animals, dinosaurs, dolls, handmade dolls. I love to sew. But that in my later years, that's mostly what I do. I make dolls, and they have brown skins.
So did you get all of your education in Berkeley?
I think just about, because when I went to Berkeley High, you weren't able to have a college curricula.
So you didn't get to go to college?
I didn't get to know.
Uh-huh. So when you worked at the Y, you worked there for a number of years?
Yes, I did.
And how long were you there?
Well, I was there for 15 years, but it was broken up. But 15 years I worked there.
So how you broke it up because you were raising your children?
That's right, yes.
And then you went back.
That's right, yes.
So tell us about that experience working with the Y.
Well, I was very particular about what I did, what I put out at the Y, and at the YWCA in New York, they said anything that comes from the Oakland Y is perfect. And so I lived up to that. And I had some funny things that happened when I had in charge of the stenographic office. The girls would put stamps upside down in any which way when we mail things. And I said, we aren't going to go with that. So I made them remove the stamps, and that really knocked them out. But it had to be perfect. It was coming from me. And that's what I stood by that.
I see. And then I understand when you married Mr. Pete, Herman Pete, he was from an athlete from Alameda?
Yes, from Alameda, yes.
A star athlete.
He was a football, basketball, baseball, and track. But he was the only man of color on the team. And what broke my heart was that when they had a game and they were through, all of them would go to a restaurant to eat. And he was the only one who wasn't served, but all the rest were white, so they were served.
So how about Dennis, who had an early career with the Black Panther Party?
That's right.
And a defensive back with the Oakland Raiders?
That's right, yeah, he was here.
So how long was he with the Raiders? Do you remember?
Well, with all of those teams, they always would, all of a sudden they would
They would have, he played a number of years.
yeah, he played another year, but they would put you off on another team. They did that often.
Oh,
So you were getting along fine and you were a good player, but all of a sudden they would transfer you to another team. And that's what happened to him. He was transferred to the South, and when he did, he wanted
He wanted to stay in one place?
He wanted to stay in one place, but they did transfer him. And then he went he started working for Young Life. That was a group that worked, a religious group that worked with young people. And he got involved in that, and he's been with them for about 20 years.
So he's now working with as a
Still.
church youth counselor.
That's right, he's a youth counselor, and he plays the piano at the church, and he's just, but he even took a group to Russia because he had a good reputation working with the inner city youth, and they wanted him to go as a chaperone with a white group, and he said, "I'll go if you take some of my kids." And so he took some of his black kids to Russia. And that was such a beautiful experience.
Is that in Atlanta, Georgia?
That's right, yeah.
Yes. So what kind of dolls do you make? I understand you make dolls.
Oh, I used to make them with white faces, but then I decided I wanted black faces, so I got some darker material. And I make yarn here, and I embroider the eyes. And they're quite popular. But dinosaurs is another thing that I make.
Yeah, dinosaurs. What do you do with them when you make them?
Well, I used to sell them, but most of the people want things free. And I don't like that because I don't charge very much for them, but I give them away.
Oh, so when did you start making the dolls?
Well, I'd always made them when I was even a youngster. I made some funny ones, but as I got older, I improved on them.
So the funny ones, tell us about the funny ones.
Well, they weren't as good as they should have been, but then I improved as the years went by.
Oh. So what made them funny?
Well, maybe they didn't have shoes on, or maybe there's something wrong with their attire.
So tell us a little bit about your sisters that are still living.
Yes?
Which ones are they?
I have a sister 6 years younger than me. She's the one I'm closest to. And we used sew, and we do the same thing. I have a sister who's 2 years younger than me. That is John Henry's widow.
And her name is?
Florence.
Florence.
Florence, yes.
Florence Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
And she has a daughter that's very active?
That's right.
In music?
Yes, yes.
Her name is?
Tarika.
Tarika Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Tell us about her a little bit.
Well, she is very, very talented. She sings. She plays the violin out of this world. And she works with John Handy, playing the violin. She also draws pictures, and there's one behind you. I'll show it to you later on, but there's one behind you that Jeffrey was in the courtroom one time, and he was being sued, and she drew the pictures of all the people who were there, and it's on the wall here.
Oh, outstanding.
And she's very, very, very talented.
Yes. Her name is?
Tarika.
Tarika.
Yeah.
That's your niece.
Yeah, that's my niece.
And do you have another sister here that are living?
No, I have one in
One in, where is she?
I'm trying to think.
Well, while you're thinking about her, do you have grandchildren?
Yes, I do.
Tell us about them.
Noonie has, you know who Noonie is?
Yes.
That's my grandson. And the great-grandson is a girl. Her name is Tyler. And there's a boy, and he's Noonie Jr.
I see. And he is a graduate of Clark University?
Well, Noonie was a graduate of Clark University.
see.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So, do you have any other grandchildren?
Yes, I do. I have a grandson he also graduated from Clark, Dewan. And he he graduated summa cum laude from Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so how long have you lived in this house?
In this house?
In this house.
Oh, just from 2001 to the present time. And I had surgery, and that's why my sons moved me in here with them, and they take care of me.
So you spent most of your life in Berkeley?
That's right, yes.
Yeah. So what church do you attend?
Well, right now I attend
Lakeshore?
Lakeshore, yes.
Avenue?
Lakeshore Avenue Baptist Church, yes.
Yes. And were you there when Reverend Romney was there?
Reverend Romney was my main minister.
Did you work for him?
Well, I was a church office secretary, and there were 4 ministers, so I had a lot of ministers. But he was the main one.
You were the secretary for 4 different ministers?
That's right.
Wow, that was a lot of work.
That was a lot of work. Because now they have someone in charge, and she only has 1 minister.
I see.
But it's good.
So what are some of the activities that you worked in at the church?
Well, first of all, I was a Sunday school teacher for junior highs for many, many years. I worked in the nursery, take care of the babies. I was a women's president, American Baptist Women, for 5 years. Well, I guess that's enough.
Well, that's amazing. So you probably worked in all aspects of that church.
I think I did, yes.
Did you sing in the choir too?
No, I don't have the voice, but I enjoy it.
Yes. Yeah. And Reverend Romney was very active back when you worked with him in the community.
He was, and he also had the Hour of Prayer. There was a radio program that was on every Sunday.
Yes.
And he would make a tape of it, and then I would take it to the post office and mail it to the headquarters.
Yes. Yeah, it was a very interesting Sunday morning. I used to listen to him.
Yeah.
Yes. And I understand he worked with the Black Panthers also.
He was into everything. He wasn't afraid.
Yes. I remember hearing about the work he did with the Black Panthers.
That's right.
Tell us about the president job that you had with the women's group when you were the president.
Well, I officiated at their meetings. They had the meeting once a month. We went to Mount Hermon, which was where all of the American Baptist women joined one another. We had it every year. Well, any programs we had, I always was the one was in charge of it. We attended Church Women United meetings. Anything that had to do with American Baptist women, we were always involved with it.
So how long did you do that? Did you do it?
That was five years for that year.
That was very interesting.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, and when you graduated from Berkeley High, what was your aspiration? What did you want to do at that time?
Well, I wanted to be a secretary. That's what I really wanted to be.
And so something, you had the opportunity, someone asked you to come and work for the Y.
That's right, yeah.
And that was something that you had to apply for?
Well, they wanted me to work for them because they said they needed a Negro on the staff, and that was why. It was kind of forced on them, I think, but I was a good secretary.
Yeah, so when you say it was forced on them, you mean there was something in the city that was going on that forced it to?
Well, it was wherever we were in Oakland anyhow. If we were, our skin was the wrong color.
So, yeah, and so the community was supporting this, that they hire a Negro secretary?
Well, I think we had a lot of women who that was well-off white women who put money into the Y, and I think they were responsible for it.
So, as your health permits, what are some of the things that you do now?
Well, I don't do any of the things that I did before. I used to go to the senior center and exercise 5 days a week. I went to camp, senior camp, Feather River, I went every year. And all of these things are kind of taboo now.
That's amazing.
It's hard, but I do go to church. My youngest son takes me every Sunday to church. He belongs to Allen Temple, but he takes me to church.
Wonderful.
That's the important thing for him.
Yes.
So it's beautiful.
Yes. Does he attend with you?
He does, yes, he comes. He parks the car, and then he brings me in, and then he parks the car, and then he comes back and sits by me.
Oh, that's nice. And because your family had the most popular record store in Berkeley, was music a big part of your life?
All of my boys had piano lessons. Not all four of them, there's three of them.
Three, yes. And did you play the piano also?
I played a little bit, but I didn't have lessons. But they all had the music in them, I think. Their father played the music all the time.
Oh.
But mostly it was mostly classical music.
So their father played?
Their father.
Uh-huh.
It was a long time before he let them have a jazz record.
Oh, so the father played the piano also?
No, he didn't play the piano. He just played the music
I see.
on the record.
The phonograph record?
We had it on all the time,
Yes.
yes.
Classical music, yes. So did your sons enjoy classical music?
Well, they did some. He sang the Messiah. He was in the choir at our North Oakland Baptist Church. My husband was. And they all had piano lessons. But he played music all the time, so they memorized it. And we went to a program of the Messiah one Sunday night, and I had my three little boys sitting beside me, and there was a whole row of women in front of us, and they started singing, and they said, "Mama, can't we sing?" They wanted to sing the Hallelujah chorus.
Yes.
I said, "Okay, go ahead." So they sang it. When we got home, their dad said, "You know, when we were singing the Hallelujah chorus, everybody in front of you was smiling." And I said, "Well, your boys were singing it." And he was so upset that they were singing it. And I thought it was wonderful.
Oh, yes, it sounded wonderful. So, being a historian, what would you tell young people today?
About my story?
Well, about your story and about life or anything, what would you tell the young people of today?
Well, I think that whatever you want to do, you can do it.
Oh, that's
I think so now. I think so.
Well, this, I wanted you to tell us about, you have some photographs here, and this is a proclamation. Could you tell us about this, the proclamation? And then we'll tell us about that.
Well, this happened at my party. That's
Okay, and we'll look at it as you talk about it. Just tell us what this was.
Well, it was a proclamation from the city of Oakland,
Let's
I
turn
guess.
it toward this way.
Yeah, I see.
So it says honoring Dorothy Reid Pete on her 90th birthday. And this was from the Alameda County Supervisors, Supervisor Keith Carson.
Oh, yes.
And all of the supervisors signed this. And it was on your birthday. That was February the 28th, 1914 was your birthday.
Yes.
And you celebrated on February 28th, 2004.
That's right.
Okay, and could you tell us about, I'll take this one here, And we'd like to hear about these photographs here. If you could just show us
I see.
and tell us about them, point to them.
Well, this was one when I was a student at junior high. This was my baby picture. I wasn't one yet, and I couldn't walk yet, but I had a lot of hair. This is when I was a teenager, and I plucked my eyebrows, which is something that teenagers do. And this was my husband, my children's father, and this is me at Lakeshore Avenue Baptist Church.
I see.
So that was, yeah.
Oh.
I hadn't put on a little weight, either had he yet.
So would you say this was, you've been at Lakeshore Avenue Baptist Church a long time?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Yes? Okay. So
Yeah.
is there anything else that you would like to speak about and tell us for your story? Anything else? Anything else you'd like to tell us?
Well, I think I kind of told most of what I had. As you get older, your mind isn't as sharp as it is when you're young.
Yes, I understand. And then...
I do want to say something about this young lady here who I knew when she was about that big, and she was really something at Linden Branch YWCA. And I remember there was a dancer, I can't think of her name,
a famous dancer,
famous dancer,
Catherine Dunham.
that's right. And her mother always had an open house. They had this big house, and I always got invited. I felt so good that I was always invited. And Catherine Dunham, I remember this little girl.
This little girl was named, what was her name?
Ruth Beckford.
Beckford.
And Catherine Dunham was there. And Catherine Dunham went dancing, and this little girl went dancing right behind her, and I'll never forget that.
Oh, she was a little girl then?
She was a little girl then, but she had, that was her talent.
And so...
And later she danced with Catherine Dunham.
She did.
Yes, she did.
She became very famous.
Yeah, I know.
Yes. And did you watch her over the years?
Yeah, she was an actress.
Yes.
She was, any program she was in, I was there.
Yes. And there were a lot of dance groups that she worked with.
That's right.
That's right.
At the Y, she had all kinds of classes.
Yes. So that sounds like a very exciting experience that you had. We would like to see if you have anything else you want to tell us about before we...
Well, I want to thank you ladies for thinking of me.
Yes, and our crew, the crew that we have today.
Beautiful young man.
Yes.
You see, I like young men, because that's why I had 3 of them.
That's right. But the coalition is so pleased to have had this honor that you've given us today for our program called Eternal Voices. And today is March 26, 2004. Thank you.
Thank you.